You're going to find yourself gravitating towards heal botting once you figure out that this damage isn't really...
My average rocket damage per 10 is literally in the 800s.
You need to focus on healing. Since Rocket's normal damage isn't, amazing,
You shouldn't find yourself using bombard mode very often in an action-packed match.
He is a chill heal bot and hard to kill if played correctly. Let's quickly go over.
So, I guess we've got a lot to talk about. What's going on, guys? My name is Roadkill, and today I've reached Eternity on Rocket Raccoon. I also played Thor when Rocket was banned or otherwise unavailable, but let's be honest, he's not the reason I climbed here. The grind to get here was nothing short of torture, but I must say, being up here just feels right. Especially since my road to Eternity was paved with Tim's defeat. I've been wanting to make this video for a while. When I Celestial, I thought I was ready to do it, but honestly, I've seen too many tutorials or videos from other Rocket players in Celestial whose methods and advice I'd largely disagree with. So if I had made the tutorial back when I was in Celestial, I've just been another voice in the crowd, honestly. So I decided nothing would satisfy me until I hit Eternity. And now that I have, I'm honestly glad I waited. The difference in skill between Celestial 3 and Eternity is actually so vast, you could probably compare it to the difference between Bronze 3 and GM 1. So now that I've reached Eternity, I feel my words carry a significant amount of authority when I say, all these other Rocket tutorials are wrong at worst or insufficient at best. Making this video is important to me because Rocket's reputation is currently in the gutter, and with all these current videos out for the character, it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. Most of the tutorials I can find are essentially just telling people to heal bot with Rocket, and in the past, I would have called anyone who played like that an idiot and called it a day, but right now my opinion has slightly changed. So, with a 58% win rate and 189 competitive hours, let's get into my opinions on possibly the most polarizing and misunderstood character in Marvel Rivals. Spider-Man, I'm guessing like most people watching this video, used to be my favorite super of all time. I watched the Tobey Maguire movies so many times I could probably parrot every line perfectly, even with the movie on mute. I didn't watch the Andrew Garfield movies as much, but his Spider-Man brought a lot to the character that solidified my love for the good old webhead, especially the fight scenes. He stayed as my uncontested favorite superhero for a long time, and even during the MCU streak of mostly banger after banger movie success, I was only sitting in wait for the day Spider-Man would join all these other heroes on the big screen and share the spotlight in the awesome universe Marvel had created. But while I was waiting, the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer released. And like most MCU fans, I'd never even heard of these guys.
Star-Lord. Who?
Featuring a talking tree, some random green lady, and a dude who looked like he'd be found lounging around at your local gas station bathroom. It seemed like the higher-ups at Marvel were pulling out some D-lister group from the 80s, and like a lot of MCU fans at the time, I was not excited for it. But then I decided to give it a try, and Guardians of the Galaxy blew the rest of the MCU out of the water. Having an amazing opening that perfectly introduces the protagonist, good comedy that doesn't pull you out of the plot, unlike some of the later MCU installments, and stellar visuals that still go largely unmatched in the MCU to this day. Seriously, and especially Volume 1 and 2, some of the shots are straight up nothing short of beautiful, but most importantly, it introduced the main focus of this video, Rocket Raccoon. Rocket was easily the best part of the first Guardians movie for me, adding pretty much all the replay value to the first movie and stealing every scene he was in, and quickly becoming my favorite MCU character in just his first appearance. Which only became more true as the movies became more...
I'm sorry. I can only afford to lose one friend today.
Rocket! Where's Quill? Rocket! Where's Quill?
intense. So when I heard about Marvel Rivals and saw the cast and saw that Rocket Raccoon was going to be in the base roster, I already knew who my main was going to be. But honestly, considering all the killing Rocket does throughout the movies, it was pretty surprising figuring out he was Marvel Rivals' version of a support type character, and according to almost the entire player base, not even a very good one. Rocket Raccoon is one of those characters whose value doesn't immediately jump at you when you first view his kit. It seems like even devs don't really know how he should be played. I think this caused a lot of the player base to have certain misunderstandings when trying to figure out how to play him. People will try and play him like he's just another standard healer and quickly figure out he's not quite as good as the others for that specific purpose. Adding on top of that, not having a defensive ult, and Rocket on the surface just comes off as a worse version of the standard 3 healers in the game. Which is where I'm sure the vast majority of the "why would you even play this character" comes from. The quick and straightforward value of 2 to 3 defensive ults is definitely undeniable, acting as a type of get out of jail free card when both game sense and common sense are missing and as such fail to keep you out of undesirable situations. So yeah, when you got a strategist or 2 on your team whose ults don't grant the immediate pleasure of being able to shut your brain off for
24
seconds at a time, it can be a real shock to the system. This has caused most players to hate characters like Rocket, Jeff, and even Adam Warlock to a lesser extent. With Rocket players seemingly being the butt of most Marvel Rivals jokes. But Rocket's got a lot of tools in his kit that make him an often unnoticed great pick, and as of Season 1.5, I might even call him one of the best strategists currently in the game. Rocket's got the most flexible healing in the game and there's no competition. One individual orb grants 70 HP in a healing over time fashion rather than instant burst. Definitely not the greatest, and while I can think of a couple scenarios where that would have its uses over instant burst healing, we all know that's not where his strength really lies. Despite me literally just now saying that Rocket's healing itself is not where the orb's strength lies, the raw numbers he can get is undeniable. I've personally had a couple games where I was the only healer as Rocket, yet despite that I was pretty comfortably able to keep my entire team up through multiple team fights. There's no other strategist in the game that comes close to Rocket's solo healing potential, no matter what people try to say about it. Next up, Rocket's orbs travel an infinite distance and can bounce about 10 meters before disappearing. What this means is that Rocket can heal teammates that he can't even see, giving him the ability to participate in fights that he's nowhere near. Very few healers in the game have the ability to do this, and as of writing this script, the only one that comes to mind right now is Luna Snow with her Snowflake. But even then, she has to see her ally first in order to place the Snowflake on them, which is a hassle Rocket largely just doesn't have to deal with. Another strength of Rocket's heals is that he can heal himself with his main healing ability. Unlike every other strategist in the roster that needs to use some type of special ability in their kit to heal themselves. This helps in granting Rocket the second best survivability in the entire game, surpassed only by Jeff. Next, Rocket's orbs don't necessarily even have to be close to your target to activate his healing. You can pretty much miss your target and still heal them due to his orbs having a 5-meter activation radius. And a meta near dominated by Groot where getting walled up from your teammates pretty much means instant death for the player being separated. Rocket is the only support who's not immediately shut down, as he can literally just shoot over the walls and heal his teammates anyways, or just boost above the wall and shoot healing orbs downward. Groot scenario aside, it's clear Rocket's healing style was designed in a way to give Rocket players enough leeway to focus on other aspects of his kit, giving you plenty of time to pay special attention to your enemies while your orbs heal your team for you.
You keep spamming the orbs. Rocket's orbs can only heal a single person one orb at a time, so not only does spamming his heals put your ally at risk because you're forcing them to wait for the second orb to travel to them, but it also means one of your other teammates is probably going to die because you're so busy frantically healing one person, making your heals lackluster on 2 fronts. Meanwhile, some other Rocket players make the opposite mistake. Shooting out a single orb while you yourself are low on health causes it to slow down to heal you, so even if your intention is to heal your teammate, they're stuck without heals until the orb's done healing you. In this scenario, just shoot 2 orbs in rapid succession. The first orb will travel to your teammate and the second one will stay and heal you.
Next up, you got Rocket's damage. Rocket has some of the best damage per second in Marvel Rivals. He's got 45 bullets in a single magazine, with each of them doing 16 damage when he's in effective range. Adding all that together, Rocket can pump out 720 damage per clip if you're just hitting body shots. And if you're hitting all headshots, he's capable of doing around 1,500 damage in a single clip.
Although it's definitely not realistic to expect to hit all headshots at almost any time aside from when your enemies are frozen by Agamotto. This puts him in a very interesting niche as a strategist that also holds the role of tank shredder, rivaling and even surpassing guys like Wolverine and Iron Fist in terms of sheer damage output. This makes him a nightmare for any team composition that supports two non-shield tanks. The reason I say he's a tank shredder and not in everyone shredder is due to the fact that almost all duelists and strategists have a relatively small hitbox and some form of fast-paced movement ability. This combined with the fact that Rocket's bullets have travel time makes these guys relatively difficult to kill. Vanguards, sporting the largest hitboxes in the game and often not having the best movement abilities, Cap and Venom excluded, make them most often the easiest target for our favorite minigun-toting kleptomaniac.
I want your tail.
His gun being exceptionally good at shredding enemy utility. Onks, Loki clones, turrets, shields, spider nests, you name it. If it's useful for the enemy team, Rock's the guy that should be in charge of shooting it. He's able to almost completely destroy Strange Shield with just one clip. He can completely shred Groot walls, but I wouldn't really advise putting yourself to task and destroying them, as Groot can just replace them almost as fast as you can knock him down. But overall, Rocket's minigun makes him a nightmare or nuisance at least to any Vanguard in the game whose name is Magneto. Lastly, Rocket is insanely good at defending himself against divers, since all of them either have attack animations that trap them in extremely predictable movement arcs, or have very limited effective uptime. Rocket's got no problem surviving their initial onslaught and turning them into Swiss cheese shortly after appearing, forcing them to run away or simply die. You don't shoot the dang thing! Every single time I select a rocket, I get hit with the right clicker slur, and it's because I'm grouped together with you creatures that can't fathom contributing anything to the team fight aside from your mediocre healing. You leave spider nests on the floor for your DPS to die to, you leave Loki clones to live without a care in the world while they dump ridiculous amounts of healing into their indestructible Magneto, and worst of all, you don't shoot Namor's turrets, letting the enemy team make the battlefield into an unmanageable death trap for your poor teammates to fight in. Stop letting Groot live, he's your victim. Stop letting the Thing live, he's your victim. Stop watching your Strange back up in sheer terror while Thor uses his face to give Mjolnir a fresh coat of paint. Toss a healing orb to your ally and put so many holes in your attacker it'll give people with trypophobia a panic. Whew, okay. Toss a healing orb to your ally and put so many holes in your attacker it'll give people with trypophobia a panic attack. Plus, if you don't use your gun, you're not going to be able to make funny clips like this.
Had to rewire my brain a little bit and learn how to play back, but not too far back. Needless to say, it was something I had to continually look out for. Oh my god, you f***ing asshole.
Team play. That's me. It's gonna hurt.
I hate Iron Fist so much.
This is a nice spot. Problem solved.
So yeah, please just use his minigun more. There's a reason it's his primary fire. Rocket's mobility is among the best in the game, being rivaled only by Spider-Man or Venom. Personally, I'd say Rocket has much better combat speed, whereas Spider-Man and Venom got the best travel speed in the game by far. His boost combined with the wall crawling often gets me away from an entire team shooting at me. This unmatched combat speed combined with his self-healing aids in making Rocket, once again, second only to Jeff in terms of survivability, boosting his effectiveness to a level most strategists can't achieve due to spending so much time returning from the respawn room whenever a Captain America so much as looks in their direction. To put it simply, Rocket survives alone in situations most strategists would need 1 to 2 teammates peeling for them in order to stay alive. Seriously, I've had 2 enemies chase me for entire fights while my other healer was dead, all while having enough breathing room to keep the rest of my teammates alive. I've always said staying alive is the most important thing you can do in a game like this, especially on strategists. Not only does the amount of healing your team gets become drastically reduced when you die, but one of your teammates will carry the unfortunate burden of going through the rest of the fight in a 1v2, pretty much guaranteeing your team loses in a steamroll.
As Rocket, one of his most well-known attributes is pretty much never dying. With a kid as good as Rocket's is for survival, I'd say if you die more than 3 times, you're pretty much throwing. Besides when you're dying to stall point. This is actually one of the areas where the vast majority of Rocket players do just fine, so I don't really got much to yell about. Some Rockets can make the mistake of not keeping track of their boosts, leaving themselves pretty vulnerable when team fights start getting crazy. A much more common mistake I see some Rocket players make is not having an escape route constantly in mind. You should always be thinking and placing yourself next to a wall/route that gives you your current easiest path of escape. Your boosters can only get you so far. One last mistake I see that's much more common among Rocket players is locking yourself in the current team fight to keep your teammates up, regardless of how dangerous it's getting for you. This might seem counterintuitive to some of the things I've said before, but if you're being chased and you're certain that staying in the fight will guarantee death for you, listen to me very closely when I say this. It's okay to abandon your team for a second or two while you take the heat off you, as long as you get back to the fight immediately after. And if a teammate dies during the time it takes for you to do this, so be it. Your life is much more important as a strategist than keeping your teammates alive. A team fight can be won if a tank or a DPS dives, but you're almost certain to lose if one of the strategists dies. Considering Rocket's revive beacon, this gives him even more leeway to sacrifice a teammate to stay alive. But even without BRB up, you still have the authority to make this decision if necessary. Speaking of BRB, Rocket's revive beacon is one of the most useful of the regular abilities in the game. It effectively turns the game into a 7v6, reviving your allies much closer to the objective, while also skipping the actual time it takes for someone to revive. This basically is an insurance policy in the event that one of your teammates makes a stupid mistake, or the enemy just gets a lucky kill. I've heard the argument said that you wouldn't need the revive if you just had a better healer. To that I'd say sure. Just point me in the direction of the strategist whose heals are so great that they can keep their teammate alive through a surprise Hawkeye headshot. It also grants an extra 25 shield to anyone who picks up the little orange orbs, as well as jump boost to anyone who picks up the blue orbs. Personally, I'd say the armor packs aren't the most useful, but it's better than nothing. The jump boost, however, has got a couple of funky uses to it. I've seen a couple shenanigans with Wand and Strange Portal, but as of right now, the most common and effective use for it is to give it to Wolverine, so he can kidnap people much farther than he'd usually be able to. This yelling bit's starting to get kinda old, so do y'all mind if I just talk normally? Thanks. To put it simply, your game sense is trash. You place it down in an area that's easily visible to the enemies, so when this thing gets destroyed, it's gone for 45 seconds. If someone dies during that time, it's your fault if your team loses that fight, period. Another thing I see commonly happening is Raccoon players placing down BRB and forgetting about it. Then you and your team move forward, but someone dies. And normally this wouldn't be a problem, but you and your teammates moved out of the beacon's range, meaning that it might as well have not been deployed at all. Lastly, you get useless revives that serve no purpose. You gotta learn to recognize when you're in a losing team fight. Allowing your beacon to stay up and revive someone in a team fight you're clearly not going to win or have already lost is a very easy way you can throw with this ability. Reviving your teammate right after everyone dies just so they can die again, or reviving someone just so they can walk back and regroup with the team anyways. In this situation, you could have just let them die, gotten the same result, and still have the res beacon up for when the next fight starts. Don't let your beacon get wasted with useless revives. Infinite ammo is definitely one of Rocket's more overpowered abilities in the game right now. It dominates tanks so hard that it essentially forces the enemy team to pick Magneto or lose. This thing allows the Punisher, and Bucky to a much lesser extent, to tear through root walls and Strange Shield like butter. Melting tanks and squishies all the same, just due to the insane damage uptime it gives the Punisher especially. It's better than Punisher's turret in the sense that he's actually mobile while using infinite ammo, and the bullets are hit scan rather than having travel time. It essentially makes the Punisher into a mini version of his ult where he's not slowed, doesn't draw attention to himself by screaming at the top of his lungs, and can just straight up use his other abilities. Sometimes it's actually a good strategy to just go all in and throw down the amplifier along with infinite ammo, as he can easily remove literally anyone in the game in seconds with this combo. Lastly, I personally don't listen to when my Bucky or Punisher request me to place down the infinite ammo. as a lot of times they're pretty much just wrong and they end up killing no one. I personally go with my own judgment rather than placing my trust in randoms. However, if you're not the most situationally aware, which is perfectly fine, I suggest simply listening to your DPS and placing it down at their request. Probably because you place the thing down at the worst times. Placing it down when the enemy is so far back that they can easily just break line of sight. With that type of leeway, don't be surprised when your Bucky and Punisher get no value, or just straight up flanked. Just wait until the enemies approach a little before putting this down, giving them as little time to react as possible. Also, you're probably not communicating with your Bucky and Punisher. I know I said earlier that I don't often listen to when my teammates suggest placing the ability, but you better let them know when you're using this ability. This way you're not looking like a dummy when you throw it down while Punisher is using his turret mode or using his ultimate. Same with Bucky, you don't want to throw infinite ammo down just for him to immediately use his ultimate, making your ability worthless. Let your teammates know when you're placing this down so it doesn't get wasted. Amplifier is easily in the top 5 best ultimates in the entire game, and it's not even a discussion. If you think differently, then you're simply wrong and stupid. To put it into perspective, most DPS players don't usually get more than 1 to 2 kills per ult. Even the top 500 players peak at getting around 10 kills per game, whereas I average around 14 kills with Amplifier and peak having gotten 24 in a single game. Well, I know what you're thinking. Roadkill. Number 1, those kills aren't even yours. Your teammates are the ones doing the killing during Amplifier. Number 2, of course you'd average more kills with Amplifier than a single DPS would with their ult. It's the combined force of a team versus just one guy's ult. My counter to the first point would be, prove to me they would have gotten those kills without the Amplifier. Exactly. So I'm attributing all those kills to the fact that Amplifier was up when the enemy died. My counter to the second point is, exactly. That just means Amplifier is a much better ult, since it enhances the entire team rather than just one person. Back to the main point, this thing is essentially an automatic team wipe button, getting usually around 3-ish kills consistently, regardless of if your teammates ult along with it or not. Strength number 2. The thing turns everyone on your team into a pseudo Dark Child for about 12 seconds, making most of the cast so powerful that even characters with very weak damage can suddenly burst through defensive ults. Matter of fact, we're going to go through all the characters that can kill through defense ultimates when they have damage boost activated. Widow, Strange, Groot, Hawkeye, Iron Man's Unibeam or his ult, Darkchild, Magneto ult even if he misses slightly, Moon Knight, Namor's Whale even if they're on the outer edge, Penny, Rocket, Squirrel Girl, Star-Lord, Storm ult, Punisher Shotgun or his ult, Thor ult, Venom ult, and finally Wolverine ult. Everyone seems to think that defense ults are the end-all be-all in this game, but half the cast is capable of killing through it with Amplifier, and even some without it. In all honesty, defensive ultimates aren't in the best spot right now because they don't give immortality, just higher healing per second, which can easily be killed through, leaving me to wonder why people favor them so heavily. Even in the case where it's not a good idea to put down Amplifier during a defensive ult, it doesn't take much effort to keep my team alive for 12 seconds or less, and then just place the amp down once the defense ult is gone. A lot of people will say they just prefer the defensive ults because it keeps them safe. It helps them win the team fight without having to worry about their health. I say that's fair, but I also just want to point out that you're pretty safe when your enemies are dead. And in all honesty, defensive ults don't even give the greatest guarantee you'll win the current team fight. I don't think I've ever seen an enemy team in a defensive ult and been like, oh crap, we're done for. A team without a defensive ult can pretty confidently still fight their immortal enemies for a couple seconds and still be just fine. And let's not even get started on when a defensive ult is just countered with another defensive ult, doing nothing other than prolonging the fight. I'm not going to sit here and say defensive ults don't have their uses. They can keep you alive through a lot of stuff Amplifier obviously can't, like Groot ult for example. Let's not sit here and act like Amplifier, an almost guaranteed team wipe ultimate, is bad just because it doesn't heal the team. Every ult's got a weakness, and just because Amplifier doesn't heal doesn't mean it's inherently a bad ult. We don't sit here and say every other tank ultimate is bad just because it doesn't give their team armor like Captain America's does. You place it down when your teammates aren't in a position to kill the enemy. I understand placing it down to start off a fight, but you're over here putting down your Amplifier when the enemies are so far, they've got 8 different choices for which piece of cover they want to hide behind, forcing your teammates to either, number 1, push into areas that are way too dangerous, risking their life to try and eke out some value from the amp, or stay in a safe position, letting the enemy team live and letting Amplifier go to waste. Neither are good for your team, as like I've highlighted before, Amplifier has a very important use of killing through defensive ultimates using abilities that don't normally one-shot. Raise number 2, you're placing down when the team fight's already won.
I'm not going to go too far into explaining this. There's no point in using Amplifier to help your teammates kill the enemies when 3 of them are already dead. Next reason, you're placing it to try and win a fight that's clearly already been lost. Unless you're in the actual final fight of the game with overtime and everything, there's absolutely no reason you should be putting down the Amplifier when 3 to 4 of your teams are already dead. It is just a waste, and it would be better for your team to just take the loss, regroup, and win the next fight with Amplifier. Next reason, you're placing it in a spot that can't reach the majority of your team. Whether you're placing down Amplifier in a spot that's simply out of range of most of your team, or placing it behind a choke or corner that your team quickly passes, placing your Amplifier in a spot that's inaccessible to most of your team is the reason most of the player base is saying stuff like, I don't even feel like Amplifier is doing anything. This would be a horrible tutorial if I just glazed Rocket like he's some sort of invincible demigod with no weaknesses. But everyone in the game has weaknesses, and Rocket's got some very real weaknesses. Despite all the things I've said about what makes Rocket good, he has little to no solo carry potential. He's not Hawkeye or Hela or Stranger Groot or any of these other characters who have the means to place horrible teammates on their back and carry them to victory. If your team is going to lose, be prepared to sink with the ship because Rocket simply doesn't have the kit to carry. And most importantly, be ready to be blamed when it happens. Even if your DPS are going 1 in 5 before any ultimates even come out, be prepared for the finger to be pointed at the most acceptable scapegoat. It's unavoidable. Rocket can turn a decent team into a dominating team, and he can make a dominating team feel so good that it makes them wonder if they're actually in a quick play match. He can't do much of anything for a bad team though. Rocket struggles hard against a team with multiple team wiping ultimates. If they got Star-Lord, Psylocke, Storm, Strange, etc., be prepared to have a bad time. His healing orbs have travel time. Despite all the pros I listed about Rocket's healing, his heals aren't hit scan. They take time to travel to your allies, and it's not uncommon for your teammates to die in the time it takes for your orb to get there. There's not really anything a Rocket player can do about this other than just shoot healing orbs in anticipation before your ally starts taking damage. But with 5 teammates to look after, as well as keeping your own self alive, there's really only so much thinking ahead you can do. Rocket's minigun is great in theory. With a huge clip and the insane potential damage he could do, Rocket could theoretically carry his team in terms of damage. However, the weaknesses to his gun stop him from being genuinely overpowered. The fact that Rocket's bullets have pretty slow travel time, combined with his rapid damage falloff that stops his weapon from being effective at any distance shy of intimate, means he's almost never consistently in a position where he can use his minigun to its max potential. This combined with the fact that going into Rocket's effective range puts the team at insane risk of losing one of their healers, as no team with half a brain between the 6 of them would ignore the chance to focus a frontlining support. Overall, while I do think Rocket's gun is one of the best in the game, there isn't very much clear opportunity to use it in its best scenario without putting his team at pretty high risk. Generally, I think the area where Rocket can get some of his best value in terms of DPS without putting the team at much risk is moving forward from the backline to somewhere in the middle area of your team, right next to your DPS and right behind your tanks. His tail actually counts as a part of his hitbox. You can pretty much completely run behind cover and still die because an enemy shot out of Rocket's massive tail hitbox. It's gotten me killed at the worst times, but especially when trying to escape a Namor ult. And those are his weaknesses. At the very start of this video, I alluded to my opinions on the Healbot Rocket. I personally disagree with this type of playstyle, but I also disagree with the type of rocket that prioritizes damage. I think the best Raccoons can find a middle ground and do one or the other, or both, depending on what the team needs in that moment. In the past, I'd say healbotting is always bad, but I've had games where the very clear win condition was just me staying alive and essentially just pocketing a DPS. I've had games where the win condition was for me to pressure the frontlining tanks with constant damage or shooing flankers off high ground. The needs of your team can change from moment to moment or literal second to second. It's important to not lock yourself into focusing on healing this game or doing damage this game or trying to be the perfect balance of both for this game. All 3 of these playstyles can be called for at a moment's notice, and it's your job and responsibility to recognize which playstyle is best for that moment. Next up, I think every Rocket player and the strategist player in general should be the captain of their team. Tanks are pretty much permanently in the front line, meaning they don't often know what's going on behind them, so any calls they make are based off limited information. It's not been uncommon for the tanks I've played with to make a call to push up only to be surprised when their team doesn't because they didn't know whatever was going on in the backline. Strategists, normally being in the back of their respective teams, can often see the entire battlefield for what it is, and they can most often make the most informed decisions for what the team should generally be doing. Don't get me wrong though and think I'm implying that strategists are the only ones that should be making callouts, or that their word is the law written in stone. That's far from the truth. Teams become much more cohesive generally when the whole team is communicating, but strategists are most often in the safest and least stressful positions among their entire team and can usually gather the most information. It's always a shame being in a game where the strategists don't communicate as much as they could be. You'd be surprised the amount of times I've all but completely won a fight for my team just because I tell them to move in a different direction. Or times where I'm literally acting as a team's battle tactics expert. I should still have this one clip where my team got wiped by the enemy team. Everyone died and they were frantically trying to rush back to the point the moment they revived. So I had to speak up and tell my team to wait against their own judgment, because we still had plenty of time since the enemy team were so far from capping the point. We ended up fully regrouping and attack all at once, retaking the point and winning the game. Stuff like that is why I say it's important for a strategist player to get used to adopting the role of team captain more often than not. Tanks and DPS are usually in positions where they can't gather as much information as you, so it can be pretty easy for them to miss out on information that you have a much easier time of gathering. That's why you're the team's strategist. In conclusion, I think Rocket is one of the best strategists in the game whose value goes largely hidden and unnoticed. No matter what he's doing, whether it's Revive Beacon saving your team from getting steamrolled, Infinite Ammo turning the Punisher into one of the best DPS in the entire game, or Amplifier turning all of his teammates into what may as well be demigods who can kill 2 to 3 enemies with relative ease. Rocket most often is going to be the unsung hero behind his team's success, but even if your team doesn't realize it, that doesn't change the value you know you're getting. So until the larger player base starts to become aware of the impact Rocket has on his team, just be satisfied with the truth and give yourself your own pat on the back. Seriously about the Amplifier though, don't expect to get any credit for any of the value you opened up to your teammates. People will start getting insane amounts of kills they would have never gotten normally and literally start making faces like this, and still never acknowledge the part you played in it. Seriously, in all these clips, my teammates kept glazing the Widow, and I was sitting there in the background like the proud coach that taught the new kid all he knows. As far as any buffs I could want for Rocket, I really don't want much. I'd prefer if Rocket could throw out his armor/jump packs manually, kinda like Brigida from Overwatch, rather than them just coming out from Rocket's Revive Beacon. That's most often an area too out of the way to be useful in a fight. This would make Rocket's armor packs and jump packs much more valuable since he'd be able to give them to his teammates mid-fight whenever he wants, making him even more unique from the rest of the strategists in his utility. Secondly, maybe just slightly faster bullet travel time with his minigun. I personally think it's slight overkill how slow his bullets travel considering his intense damage fall off at range, but in all honesty, it's something I could live with. Lastly, I think his Amplifier should be able to reach his teammates at slightly farther distance than it does currently, but Amplifier is already powerful as is, so there's really no need for that. The last two things were more of a wish list type of thing, but the first one about the armor packs could really make Rocket a lot better in my opinion. But overall, Rocket's plenty good as is. He's capable of insane damage, being able to shred tanks, defend himself against flankers, and duel pretty much anyone with relative ease, with great mobility and self-sustain that puts him among the hardest in the game to kill, and enough diverse forms of utility to carry games in his own way. In all honesty, when you look at it, there's not much Rocket can't do, which I guess makes sense. After all, there's a reason I call him the DPS that can do it all. Thank you guys for watching. I put a lot of effort into making this video and I had a lot of fun making it, since Rocket is my favorite character in the game by far, if it wasn't clear by however long this video is going to be. What did you guys think? Do you agree or disagree? Did I do nothing but glaze Rocket in this video, or are you happy someone else sees in Rocket the same things that you do? Let me know down in the comments, because I genuinely love participating in community discussions, especially for Marvel Rivals. This game's reignited my love for gaming, and I'll be making more videos in the future. One of the videos I got coming soon is a Ghost Rider concept kit, which I'm honestly really excited about. So if you don't want to miss that, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can catch it when I do post it. But yeah, I'll catch you guys next time.